Hello and welcome to my individual final project presentation. I'm JT Emerson and this is for my text-based game for CIT 260. So let's get started and walk through some different things that we've been able to do throughout the course of the semester. I'd like to explain first about static versus non-static class variables, just to show the understanding of this. So a static variable is shared in the entire class. It doesn't have to be created in order to run it, and it's referenced at any time. So when you have a class, a .java class, you can run a static variable. It can be referenced anywhere in that whole entire class. Non-static variables can only be referenced in the instance of the class created. So when you create an instance within the class, a non-static variable can only be referenced within that instance. So let me show you some examples here. I've got some static variables that we created. We have crew points and cannons. They were created in the fight enemies control class. So within the fight enemies control class later on, we are calling those variables. We have ship health, and what were they again? Crew points and cannons, I'm sorry. So we've got crew points and cannons, and they're in a different instance, but they're in the same class. This is what static variables are. So non-static here, this is how to declare them. We just have the private then string, and then we create a string of enemy and integers of crew points, number of cannons, and a ship health. Whereas with the static, we had to declare it as the words with the word static. So we declared these non-static variables, and then within that same instance is the only place that we can call them. And so here you can tell that we're calling enemy, crew points, number of cannons, and ship health. And this is in the same instance, and therefore that's why we're able to call the non-static ones. So static can be called anywhere in the class. Non-static only within the instance in the class. So moving on to arrays, array list, and enum. Basically an array is a fixed length. It's kind of like a list. When you create an array, it has to be specified when you create it, and the size of that array or the amount of data that you put in it never changes. It stays the same. An array list, on the other hand, is similar to an array, but it resizes itself as the data changes. So if you get more data or less data in that array list, then it actually, the size of it, the length of the array, that's the better word, length, can actually vary with an array list. An enum is actually a kind of Java class, and the values in it are changing. I'll kind of show you an example of that in a second. So here's how to start an array, create an array. So here you can see this little comment here. We created an array or a list of inventory items. So we said the item and the brackets and inventory equals the new item in the item index. And so this was the creation of an array right here was how we did it. And an array list, I actually don't have an example of this in my code. We actually didn't end up using any array lists in our game, and so I don't have an example of my own code to show you. But like I said, I understand that an array list is an array that the length can change, whereas an array, it's fixed. So here's an enum, and we have to declare it as an enum right here. And so we have the pirate index with pirates 1 through 7. This is an enum because the pirates aren't going to be pirates forever. In our game, actually, when you conquer a pirate, they convert into a member of your fleet. So when we be pirate 1, they turn into fleet number 1. And so then we gain a fleet as we conquer the 7 seas. They're in an enum because they change. So accessing an element in an array, here's just a quick example. You put it inside the brackets. So here we've got this array random scene, and we're accessing the scene index within it. You want to put inside the brackets what you want to access in the array. And that's how to access an element in an array. Moving on to errors, which is kind of a cool different thing that we learned this semester. How to throw a runtime error. You can see here that we're going to throw a new exception, which is the fight enemies control exception, with the runtime error, cannot fight because you only have blank number of crew. So these are the errors that we're throwing and propagating, and then we catch the error later on, and this is actually a different example, but basically you are going to create a try-catch statement, and in this one it's going to try this, and it's going to catch here, and it's going to go ahead and print the error, enter here and die present. So throwing it and catching it. Character versus byte string class. So basically a character handles inputs and outputs, and the big thing about a character is that it's using Unicode characters. A byte processes data byte to byte, and it mainly most basic types of string to handle input and output. So the byte class, string class, is the most basic way to handle an input and an output, and a character is a little more complex. The biggest difference, like I said, is that characters are using Unicode, but both of them handle input and outputs. And that's the end of my presentation here. If I go ahead and pull up the criteria for this, come on, you can see that writing character data to an external file I actually didn't include in the presentation because I don't have an example of it in the code. And a fully implemented game, the game doesn't run 100%, but let me just show you what implementation that we have of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and run it real quick here in NetBeans. And it's going to be a little bit of a... Here we go. Now you can see it. So welcome. It welcomes you. Here's the message. It tells you that you need to fight, that you're a pirate. And so you go ahead and enter your captain name. So Captain JT is here. In the main menu, we can select a new game. And then we can view the map, view crew, and inventory. If we try to view the map, it doesn't necessarily go through yet, not supported yet. So this is where we're having issues. And then C for crew, well, and that's pretty much as far as it'll go. So we don't have the game 100% implemented, but it runs to a certain extent. So and I'm pretty sure actually I think the help menu works. Let me really quick run it again just to show you how much we've done. So I know it's not much. I mean, we've done a lot, but not all of it works. So H. So basically this is what we're going to get off the main menu when we're trying to... We can get to the new game, but then whatever menu option is going to throw the same thing that it's not supported. Anyhow, that's my presentation. I covered the majority of the rubric, and I wasn't able to demonstrate a fully implemented game, just partially, and I wasn't able to get this code in writing character data. But I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.